This video feels wrong without sitting here with a cup of coffee. Please hold. Welcome, children, to my February wrap-up. So today I'm going to be reviewing the 8 books that I read in the month of February. I have my second cup of coffee here, which is going to absolutely destroy my life. In my Tim Robinson mug, he must be protected at all costs. I just felt very wrong not sitting here with my coffee while filming as usual. So here we are. And of course my dog decided to go get a bone in the middle of me filming. So if you hear suspicious noises, that would be why. So anyways, if you're new here, how I do my wrap-ups is I start with the books that I like the least, and then I work my way up to the books that I like the most. So I start with rants and then I end on raves. So like I said, I did read 8 books. They are a mixture of, I had some like literary fiction, coming of age stories, one horror book, I had some transgressive fiction, and some satire. Just like a mixture of general fiction, okay? So I did not have a single 5-star book in the month of February, but I read a lot of really good books that I recommend. Now, kind of going forward on my channel, I have been getting back into vlogging, and by vlogging, I mean sitting down and discussing the books as I read them and kind of giving long form reviews. So most of these books are in vlogs, which I will leave linked if you want the long form, in-depth reviews that I've done. Some people like that, some people just like the short form, quick reviews. So my wrap-ups will be the short form reviews, my vlogs will be long form reviews. And then of course, like if I didn't vlog it, I will go into a little more depth during my wrap-ups, but that's kind of how I'm doing things to hit like different people's preferences, okay? So I have talked about almost all of these on my channel already, but yeah, lots of books that I enjoyed. Unfortunately, we do have to start with the rants though, and the 1-star book that I had in February, I don't even want to talk about this. It is Grady Hendrix's Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I hated this. This is a book about a girl in the 70s. She's a teenager, she's pregnant. Her parents send her to this house, this home for wayward girls where pregnant teenagers live, and they're basically forced to give birth and give their children up for adoption. And along the way, they become witches or whatever, okay? A lot of people absolutely love this book. A lot of people are hating it just as much as I am and afraid to say anything because people have been getting absolutely annihilated for hating this book just because it has women's rights commentary in it. And the problem that I had with this book is the writing. It felt very YA. The book is supposed to be about witches and it's almost like 600 pages. It's like 500 and some pages. I don't even know. It's 500 pages and there was barely any witchcraft. There were barely, like the witch aspect of the book was very weak. The writing was very weak. I just did not care. If people are pulling meaning and commentary from this and they love that, I love that for you. I wish that were me. I feel like the commentary was very on the nose to the point where it was overly explained and I just felt like I was being beaten over the head with the author's commentary. And it's like, even if I agree with something, I just don't need my books to be this over explained and on the nose. I just kind of felt like it was forced and yeah. Sorry, I really just don't even feel like talking about this book anymore. If you want more thoughts on that, I kind of went on like a 20-minute rant in my vlog. That'll be linked. Next, my 2-star book, which is another controversial, unpopular opinion, A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. This is a classic transgressive fiction novel. I was so excited to read this given that I've been super into more transgressive fiction lately. And there's one aspect of this book that I did not know about, that I was not expecting, that completely threw me off. and I was so irritated reading this. This again is in one of my vlogs, but yeah, we're following this this teenager named Alex, him and his friends. It's in this dystopian world where there's just tons of chaos and violence, and so him and his friends, when they hang out, they partake in extreme violence and rape and all kinds of deviant acts. And basically after this one incident, the government psychiatrist starts doing this treatment on him, this type of therapy where they are programming him to only do good from now on. So yeah, that is this book. Pretty much it's exploring freedom of choice and our ability to choose. I'm just watching my dog try to climb underneath my tripod, and she's 90 pounds. Snow, get back up, girly. Why don't you come up here? Come up here. Come on. Okay. So yeah, that is this book. We're just exploring like freedom of choice and the ability to choose and mind control, basically. And the thing that I did not like about this book that made me give it 2 stars, I enjoyed the plot, like the actual storyline was fine. I did not know that he came up with a made-up language. So this made-up language is throughout the entire book, and some words are easy to figure out what they are, others are not so much. And he wanted it to be like timeless because, you know, teenage slang is always changing, and so he wanted it to be something where like it doesn't change depending on the time period. And he's like, well, it's a book about mind control, so I don't want you like looking them up in a glossary or whatever. I thought it was so annoying because it was so like every 3-4 words was this like fake made up gibberish word that just annoyed me. I know a lot of people don't mind it, a lot of people loved it. For me personally, it just threw me off from the reading experience, and I just ended up being very irritated. It was a struggle for me to get through this one. I just think made up languages are something that I don't do in literature, but as far as like the story, the meaning, the themes, it was fine. If there is an Anthony Burgess book that does not contain a fake made up freaking language, please let me know and I will read it. My 1 3-star book was A Gorgeous Excitement by Cynthia Weiner. This is a new book. It's a coming of age literary fiction book about this teenage girl who is growing up, and I believe it's the 70s, the 80s. Don't quote me. My brain is getting all of these, like all these books took place in like the 70s and 80s, and I'm getting myself mixed up. But we're following this girl, and she is about to go to college, and she starts, you know, we're just following her hanging out with her friends. She starts doing cocaine, and it's this time period where she's trying to figure her shit out, and she has a crush on this guy, and he is like a bad boy, okay? He's like, ooh, I wear a leather jacket and I ride motorcycles and smoke cigarettes, and so she thinks he's so hot, you know? He's like one of those. And we find out that someone is also murdered in the book. One of the teenage girls is murdered. So we're trying to figure out like who murdered her, why, what happened, but that's not the main plot of the story. Like the main plot is just her figuring out her life and going away to college and kind of dealing with love and her image and drug addiction and her mother, who is severely mentally ill. We're following this timeline where she's basically like becoming the mom to her mom as a teenager. So we're just following her throughout just a troubled period in her life, and at the same time there's like a little bit of a murder mystery thing going on, okay? So apparently this book does take place, it's based on a true crime case that happened, I believe it was the author's hometown, called the Preppy Murders, or the Preppy Murder, where a boy like murdered this girl, and she wanted to show like the slut shaming at the time and emphasize on that. So I see what she was trying to do. I do think this book was very well written. People are comparing this to Bret Easton Ellis. I do not see that comparison. Maybe like the rich teens doing drugs lifestyle, but the writing is completely different. I do think it was well written. It was just very slow, and I don't think the emotional depth was there as much as I wanted it to be. Like there was some very unsettling things going on, like especially with her mother, and I wanted that like I wanted more sadness to be pulled out of this book, and I just don't feel like it completely did it for me. So that's why I went with 3 stars. I would still recommend, but yeah, like not enough was going on for me. Lots of talk about like her wanting to lose her virginity. Then my 3.5, possibly even 4-star book rec is High Rise by J.G. Ballard. This is another dystopian transgressive fiction novel where we are following 3 different people living in this high rise where it's kind of like a utopia. So they built this high rise, it's like 40 stories high, and there's 2,000 people that live there, and it's self-sustainable. So in the middle of the high rise, there's like a grocery store, there's a pool, there's a spa, like everything that you could possibly need and want is located in the high rise. A lot of people work there, and it's split up by class. So on the bottom you have like the lower class, people with kids, then you have like the middle class in the middle, and then the upper class is in the upper levels of the high rise. Okay, so that we have, you know, celebrities and the people that own dogs and the owner of the high rise. So we are following a resident doctor, a filmmaker, and the owner of the high rise throughout this book, and basically chaos ensues. So we're following like the breakdown of their society, the violence and the chaos, and just the craziness that starts happening in this high rise between like the different people that live there. You're seeing the same people day in and day out, and fights start breaking loose, and they just keep getting crazier and crazier. And yeah, we're just following the breakdown of this society, and basically says a lot about kind of technology and where we're headed, and how, you know, this utopia, this self-sustainable high rise, really just is making people more alienated and dehumanized, and people just stop giving a shit about one another. But yeah, a really good book. Also watched the movie. The movie was okay. I like the book better. It's very bleak. Really bleak, and shows a lot of psychological depth. I really enjoy J.G. Ballard's writing, so if you have any recommendations from J.G. Ballard, I read this one and Crash, let me know in the comments down below. And then moving into 4-star books, I'm going to start with Blob by Maggie Su. This is a new like literary fiction weird girl book. So we're following this girl who went through a breakup, and now she finds this blob behind a dumpster, and she takes the blob home and starts feeding it, and the blob is like growing eyelashes and growing body parts, and he's turning into a man. So she is trying to perfect her life by literally crafting this perfect man from this blob, like Frankenstein. Okay, it's like a feel-good sort of book, but it's also, you know, it has this layer of sadness because we are following her after a breakup, like desperate to be loved, and like I too want to feed Blob slop and get them to fall in love with me and be the perfect man, right? So we see her desperation to be loved and kind of her descent into madness and where she ends up after that. I really enjoyed this book. It was like a perfect 5-star for me until the ending, where it kind of fell flat. There wasn't a whole lot of depth at the end, and I kind of needed that for it to be 5 stars, but it's an easy, quick read. If you're looking for something simple and something heartfelt, I totally recommend this one. I love Bob the Blob. Playworld by Adam Ross. This is another new one. This is another like lit fic coming of age story. We are following this teenage boy, I believe he's 14, named Griffin, and he is a child actor. So he is the star of this like new hit sitcom, and so we're following him and his home life, his family life, and just him growing up, right, in high school. But we learn he has a very dysfunctional home life. At the same time, his parents' friend, Naomi, in her 40s, is grooming him, and she enters a sexual relationship with him, and we're following a lot of predatory behaviors in his life and how his family just like lacks boundaries. Like they send him to a psychiatrist, but then they also see the same psychiatrist and it's their friend, and so the psychiatrist like tells them everything that he's telling them so that he doesn't tell the psychiatrist things. It's like they lack boundaries. His home life is a mess, and you really see like the breakdown of this dysfunctional family and how it leads to doors opening for predatory behaviors to take place. This is kind of a mixture between like Lolita and, excuse you, this is kind of, okay. This is kind of a mixture between Lolita and Catcher in the Rye, I feel, in a way, but also completely different. I was sucked into this world. The writing is immaculate, and I highly, highly recommend. I'm very curious about Adam Ross's other novel. He only writes a novel like every few years, like every 10 years or something, I think. But yeah, I absolutely love this. It did drag a little bit for me. Like it took me forever to read, but I highly, highly recommend. And I read a Chuck Palahniuk book, which is Lullaby. This is a weird one, as all of Chuck's books are. So this is about a poem, like a, what is it called? A culling song. So it's like a lullaby that parents are reading to their children, and it's killing their children. So our main character is a journalist, and they send him to write a report or write some magazine articles about all the rise in infant death syndrome happening. So he starts kind of investigating what's been going on a little bit, and something tragic happened in his life with his family. So he starts researching more and comes across this really sketchy realtor and he believes that she might be able to help him find all of the remaining poetry books containing this culling song, and he's trying to destroy them all, basically. Basically, that's this book. I loved the commentary in this book about the media and how the media can influence the masses, and how when we are constantly distracted with the media or with TV or music or whatever, we're just constantly like hearing thoughts and opinions and social media especially, like we're just constantly tuned in and listening to other people's thoughts, and when we do that, we lose the ability to think for ourselves. And so it has a lot of commentary about like Big Brother and the media, and I just ended up absolutely loving this one. It did kind of get a little weird for me, like maybe the halfway mark. I feel like all his books kind of lose steam for me at the halfway, but then I did really enjoy the ending. I think the ending was so fucked up and bizarre. Also, since I did not read this one in a vlog, let me just read you this. There are worse things than finding your wife and child dead. You can watch the world do it. You can watch your wife get old and bored. You can watch your kids discover everything in the world you've tried to save them from. Drugs, divorce, conformity, disease, all the nice clean books, music, television, distraction. There are worse things you can do to the people you love than kill them. The regular way is to just watch the world do it. Just read the newspaper. Anymore, no one's mind is their own. You can't concentrate, you can't think. There's always some noise warming in. Singers shouting, dead people laughing, actors crying, all these little doses of emotion. A new death, this plague, can come from anywhere. A song, an overhead announcement, a news bulletin, a sermon, a street musician. You can You can catch death from the telemarketer, a teacher, an internet file, a birthday card, a fortune cookie. You see what I mean? Just the constant commentary about like society and the shit that we constantly take in, and we can't even formulate our own opinions and thoughts about things anymore. And also unchecked power too. Like, what would you do if you had all this power and you could choose to use it or not? I don't know. I ended up really enjoying this one. Definitely one of the better Chuck Palahniuk books that I've read. I am on a quest to finish up his backlist this year. Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite ones by him. Last but not least, I read Story of My Life by Jay McInerney. A lot of people have been telling me to read him because his writing is similar to Bret Easton Ellis. So this is a satirical book about this woman named Allison living in New York in the 80s. And she is a hot mess. She's addicted to drugs, kind of like living off of her dad's money, going to this like private school. She's trying to be an actress, and we're just following her and her friends as they do drugs. She has one night stands and is kind of entering this new relationship. So that is this book. Allison is a character in American Psycho who was murdered, by the way. So she is in the Bret Easton Ellis universe. This book is very similar to a Bret Easton Ellis character. We are just following this girl. She's in her 20s, and it's her telling us the story. So it's like, oh my God, I told him to just get a grip. Story of my life. Like, that's how this book reads, which some people might be annoyed, but I was so entertained. I thought it was hilarious. I just absolutely loved how just like fucked up and detached this main character was, and yeah, it made me laugh out loud a few times. It did kind of drag a little bit, like it's pretty much a book about nothing, but yeah, we are just seeing like how detached she is and how her trauma kind of bleeds into her life, and how her fucked up family dynamics and fucked up dynamics with her friends and relationships have led her into being this like detached, hollow version of herself, being materialistic and doing drugs, okay? Which I feel like is basically one of the main themes of Bret Easton Ellis's books. So yeah, I highly recommend this. If you're looking for like reality TV trash in the form of a book with a Bret Easton Ellis character, read this book. So yeah, that is it. Those were the 8 books that I read in February. If you've read any of these and you liked them, leave a comment down below and I will see you in my next video. Bye.